What up, my friend? Coach Paulie Barr here from Coach's Corner. I want to thank you for joining me for conversation nuggets and tips that'll set you free. If this content is bringing you any value today, I want you to do me a huge favor, my friend, and drop me a review down below here on Apple Podcasts. And if you have any questions or comments, you can email me at identityofonecoaching@gmail.com. With that being said, it's time to dive in so that you can be set free. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode here on Coach's Corners podcast. I am Paulie Barr, lead pastor of Set Free Life Ministry, and I've got a very good friend of mine, Faith Davis, all up in the house, all the way from Fort Worth, Texas, my old stomping ground, but now I'm here in Colorado. And so just to give a little backdrop of how we met on the app called Clubhouse. And I encourage anyone who is listening, if you are an Apple user, to go and check out Clubhouse. Now you can find me at Set Free Coach, and you can find Faith at Faith Davis. And so we're going to dive right into this conversation. But first, I want you, Faith, to let us know, how you started your ministry, how you started your business, how everything worked out in the marketplace. Share a little bit of your testimony, and let's dive right into this conversation.
Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me today, Paul. I really appreciate it. And I would like to say hello to your listening audience. I'm Faith Davis. I'm currently living in Fort Worth, Texas, but I have lived in other places across the world, lived in Europe and lived in Hawaii for 7 years and lived in Georgia and Washington, D.C. And some of my friends call me the international girl because I've kind of traveled around due to my previous marriage. And my ex was in the military, so I got to experience a lot of different geographical locations with my family. But I work for the federal government right now and really trying to pace myself for retirement. But I do have a side gig. I am a transitional life coach. And so that's what I do on the side. I'm also a minister, licensed and ordained. And I am a servant leader in my church. So I have a lot of, things that I'm in, a lot of organizations that I'm in. I'm also a participant in we were doing weekly, but because of COVID, we had to retreat. But we have a radio show here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it's called It's a Family Affair. And so we talk about family issues, and we deal with all of the dimensions of the family in regards to the men, women, our children, our youth, our millennials, singles. So we kind of, dive into the whole dynamic of the family. So I have that going on as well. So that's what is in my life. It's kind of busy. Even during COVID, I'm still busy and working. Right. I am a human resource professional, and about 30 years of my 33, almost 34 years of federal service has all been geared in the human resources area. So I have gotten my certification through John Maxwell. Certified through John Maxwell as far as the coaching is concerned. I'm also affiliate with the National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees. So I'm very passionate about that, where I hold an executive position with that organization. And we are passionate about teaching children, young adults, and adults on the aviation industry. Wow. And so I'm involved in that as far as getting any type of educational programs that we can bring forth or experiences to the community here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, Houston, and Oklahoma City area, in Louisiana and Arkansas. So that's just another part.
Wow, that was a loaded question. Where are you from? It's like... That's awesome, though. That is so awesome.
I didn't want to overload you.
No. I'm doing that just jokingly. No, that is awesome because God is equipping you with so much knowledge, so much wisdom, so much resources, so much areas of life. And that is just so awesome. And so, really quick, explain to us and, to me and my listeners, our listeners, what is a transitional coach? How does that work?
Okay. Well, as far as my platform is concerned, as far as transitional, I have a passion to help those go through a process when they feel like they need a switch, or I would say a reset, because my platform is based on the name of Reset Your Life Today. And reset stands for restoring, empowering, sustaining, evolving, and transforming. And so it's a process of going through whatever situation. And I'll give you an example. Say, for instance, if I was going through a divorce and I have now changed my whole life. I've been cut off, from my mate now because of that sever in the relationship. And I need to redefine who I am. So, you go through the restoration process of being healed from that, and you get empowered to know that if you're by yourself with God, you can still go forward. You can, start to learn if you need to get out and work. If you never worked before and you were a housewife, you're empowered to be able to gain resources in order to be productive in different areas. Then you're going to sustain yourself, meaning that whatever you have been empowered with and whatever God has given you, you're going to be sustainable, meaning that if you do need to change your career, if you do need to relocate, or if you do need to make some changes, you're going to know how to be sustainable, and you'll be able to be productive, free, and you'll be able to, empower others. So you're going to have that solid foundation. And as you have that solid foundation, you get settled in that. And that's sustainability. And then you start to evolve. You start moving into who you want to be and who God has ordained you to be in your purpose. You start evolving because you have a new purpose. When you are now in your new life, you have to, you're identifying with your mate. Now you got to know who God has purposed you to be in this new season of your life. And then as you are evolving in that, then you're also transforming. And that's that in process, whatever that is. Even if you're transitioning, say, for instance, you're moving from one location to another and you need to adjust, you need to be social, whatever situation that you want to hit that reset button and get a fresh start, get a new look, self-identify, self-assessments, whatever you need to do in order to reset your life today. And it starts with today, and it starts with changing yourself from within. So it's an inward change, and it will come outwardly.
Wow, there is so many nuggets in there that we can pull, because there is that coaching style is very much needed. What I'm hearing is that everyone that's going through transition is coming from a different identity into something new. So it's like that caterpillar going through the metamorphosis into that beautiful butterfly. Right?
In that beautiful butterfly. I have a butterfly story, and I don't know if I shared this with you, but maybe about 6 months ago, I was really talking with God. During this whole year of COVID, for me, it's really been like a reset, if you will.
Right. Right.
Re-identifying what's going on. What do you want me to do in this season, Lord? I'm getting ready to do some transitions in my own life. And so just trying to get that fine tuning in. And so during this time of COVID, I've been going through those assessment times and time frames. And so I play a game called pickleball. I don't know if you've ever heard of pickleball before. But so one day I was out there playing one Saturday, and all these butterflies started flying up around my head, different colors. It was like 5 of them. And everybody just stopped and they said, Faith, you got butterflies flying all around you.
Wow.
And then they flew away, and then they came back again, and they started flying around me. And I'm like, what is going on? And it happened all day in, different time frames. And the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, you are free. You are free to do what I've called you to do.
Wow.
It was like a significance that my transformation process was at that point where go launch, go do what I've told you to do. Not saying that I haven't been doing it, but in this new phase in my life.
Wow, that is so awesome. It sounds to me like God had to show you something in order for you to really grasp your purpose. And so in that moment, right? In that moment, I would assume that it became a greater passion because it was this, not only you saw it, but everyone else saw it.
Everyone else saw it. Everybody else saw it, and they've never seen it before. And, I always say, Lord, speak to me in however you need to speak to me, whatever mode, whatever voice, vice, whomever. And he spoke to me through nature. And I said, wow. I said, this is remarkable, but it was a significant impact when he, through the butterfly. And so that is why the butterfly is very symbolic in my branding. And I'm going through that phase right now and doing some changing out on my webpage, getting my webpage, just kind of doing a refresh of that whole situation there as far as the marketing plan and, to get me out there and launching it out, because the butterfly is very significant in my whole launching and my whole coaching platform. It's that transformation from that caterpillar to the butterfly. Yes.
That is so, so amazing. And so through your transition, especially through COVID, because I can relate that 2020, when 2020 came, there was, a lot of wonder. Everybody's wondering, like, what's going on? What's next? How's this? This is only going to be this short 2 months and we're going to be fine. But I kept telling people, I feel it in my spirit, and I know that it's God because it was right in my gut and it was in my spirit, that nothing was going to go back to normal, that there was no new normal. But in this season of transformation for everyone, it was a time that God wanted those that had a passion to write a book, a passion to start a ministry, a passion to go and save the world, basically, whatever organization that has been in your spirit to start, that 2020 was the year to start. It was almost as if there was this window of opportunity that God placed in the spirit, and it was slowly closing. And no matter what part of the year anyone jumped in, they still had the opportunity to jump in, and you had that window. Not saying that God isn't going to bless somebody for starting something this year, but there was this special time last year through COVID, because let's face it, Faith, everyone on the face of the planet began to embrace new perspectives, began to embrace family, began to embrace friendships, began to embrace things, because when you're social distance from something and you're separated from something that is just the norm every day, now you yearn for that human touch. You yearn for the communication. You yearn for those different things. And so I love what you're saying about the transformation and especially the reset, because so many people need help in this area to be able to discover that. And that's what you're doing.
And you made a very good point. During that time of COVID, the initial couple of months, I had just made a transition as far as being a member of a new body of believers. And the whole transition is that my church is not located here in Fort Worth, Texas. It's located in Huntsville, Alabama. And It's a new ministry. And so that was a transition in itself. And that started in February, and it's called the Destiny Center, where purpose and destiny meet. And so it was very purposeful for me to have made that move, and then COVID, and it's all about purpose and destiny. So that's the platform, and they're equipping you to help you get to where your purpose is, for first to define your purpose with God, and then to help you with the resources in order to assist you to get going, get moving, do your blueprint, let's go. So it's all encouraging, all equipping, as Ephesians 4, states about equipping the saints for the work of the ministry. So that was very key for my 2020. And then also, I think it taught us not to be, I think sometimes we take things for granted, and we take for granted, relationships. We take for granted the people we love, our family, just the little things that we can do and we do. And we really had to put some priorities and also be able to verbalize how we care, how we truly love, how we truly miss. And then we had to also take care of ourselves. It was a self-care year, of being faithful to us in order to stay healthy, and our family, our families to stay healthy as well.
Absolutely. Man, you're hitting the nail right on the head. And so going back to the whole transitional coach, because my whole passion is being able to bring coaches on to Coach's Corner podcast so that we're letting the world know all these different styles of coaching, right? And so one of the things that stands out to me that I just keep hearing in the spirit is, like you were saying about, let's just say a spouse passes away or there's some type of divorce. And so it's this image that's created in a person. And so going back to the identity of being able to walk them through the process, you have to look at yourself in a different way. So you have to change these habits. You have to change these patterns. So break down for us, how long that program goes. Is there a curriculum? Is there a certain type of process? How does that coaching template look for a client that's looking for that help through their transition?
Well, first of all, we would do an assessment, that one-on-one. And to be very honest, Paul, I'm about helping people. I'm about helping someone to be free, to set whatever needs to be reset, so it will be set in the right position.
Right.
I'm willing to walk. I think that's one thing that is missing, especially now in the body of Christ. Everybody is so busy. And the first, probably, I say 20 years of my walk with Christ, that's all I've done is counsel, in ministry. So I'm very passionate about walking with whomever God sends. The process, it has not been documented to a specific period of time.
Right.
Because everybody's time, different. Everybody's process is different. But I would think, depending on what the situation is, if I don't have the resource in order to supply what is needed in order for them to be where they need to be, I have others that are committed to my ministry, to my coaching platform in regards to, let's say, grief. I have grief coaches that I know that I could, refer them and have a session with them in order to get what they need if it's a particular area. But it is a process, and I have a process that is called the decision tree. And I think sometimes that when we are in situations where there is a transition or we need to be transformed, it's an emotional process. And so sometimes we need to look at what things need to, or what situations, what issues need to be decided upon. What's your decision process? So we go through this process called the decision tree, and we map it out. What decisions that you need to make? Should we go, yes, no, maybe? What are our alternatives? Because those decisions that we make, and I'm talking about major decisions, am I going to move in that same situation? Am I going to sell my home? Am I going to relocate within the city, or am I going to go to a whole nother geographic location?
Right.
How am I going to sustain myself? Do I have everything that I need in order if it's a financial situation? So it's a lot of things. So it's a decision tree, kind of mapping that out. If you will see somewhat like an organizational chart with the different branches of this tree that will lead us down to the roots where those different situations where I talked about as far as restoring and empowering and also sustaining and evolving and transforming. And all that is at the base of that decision tree. And we kind of map that out. So whatever decision you make, that's the right decision for you personally and your family, because whatever decisions we make, it affects the people that we love. So it's a process, and it depends on, whatever situation it is. It might be a very small decision that you have to make as far as, am I going to change my career? It could be a very small decision. And then that is another process as far as the transformation of how you do that. So it all depends on the situation. So it's not a definite timeline.
Right. I love that concept because it brings the commitment aspect into the person that's walking through that as you're walking alongside them. Yeah. God showed me a few years ago to walking out this thing called life with a person. Yeah. Because what did Jesus do? Jesus walked, talked, loved, and rebuked, right? Yeah. So he did life with the person. He did life with them. He encouraged them. Yeah. And so with my clients, the same thing. It's like, listen, you've got my number. You've got my Marco Polo. You've got my email. I will shoot you a text once a week to see how you're doing. But if there's any question that you may have, give me a call. Don't hesitate. I don't care if it's 3:00 in the morning. Let me know what's going on. Point number 2, I love that you have the structure in place, but it's still organic.
It's still organic, and it will always be organic because everyone is not the same. Some are different learners. Some are visual. Some, they more auditory learners.
Right.
It all depends, what the need is. I'm passionate more passionate, I would say, towards women because I am a woman, but I think that the process could happen for, any gender. I'm almost thinking also more towards transitional in regards to identifying maybe women who have come out of incarceration and they're trying to, get back into society, that type of area as well. I'm just, I'm open. I'm open to those who need it.
That is so awesome. I mean, you made a very good point. There's people that are in transition for everything. You got transition in jobs. You got transition from ministry to ministry. You got transition from somewhere that may have been your church for 30 years. And now you've got to move out of state. And, so much transition. Moms with their sons moving out or daughters going to college. my wife went through that same season. This was in 2017, where from one day to the next, our son moved out here to Colorado, from one day to the next with his dad after graduation because of the situation that he was in. We just felt it was better for him to come out here. And so essentially my wife for 3 months was going to work, was doing what she had to do. But when she got home, she just sat and just was sitting. And it was a form of depression. It was a form of grief. It was a form of, that was her expression of this is where I'm at. And so prayerfully, with the help of the Holy Spirit, because I am that coach and I am that pastor, but at the same time, she's my wife. And it was almost like I had to kind of shake her in the spirit. Like I came home from work one day and I'm like, okay, this is 3 months, baby. It's time for us to get up. Let's keep moving. There's roots growing in the couch. Let's go. And that shook her, but I understood and I allowed her to mourn because that was her baby for 18 years. And so, she thanks me now, but she was like, right. I mean, she was like, it was hard. And I said, I understand. I said, matter of fact, I don't understand. I said, because he's not my blood. He's not my son, but he's my son. But you raised him your whole life and you're a mama. And so I love that whole transitional coaching because, man, that brings such an element to the kingdom.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, it does. And, I think that as society, we are starting to identify with loss is grief. Anything that you lose, you can go through a grief process. And sometimes I think we generally think of grief as death, as far as humanistic death, that you are gone, transitioned, and you're no longer here. But I believe anytime that we lose something, we can go through a grief process. The same type if it were a family member or anyone that you dearly love or care for, you can go through a grief process as well.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you a question because I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about grief and mourning are two different things. And so share your insight with that, because from what I, from what I learned on that podcast, I just want to see how this ties into what you're doing as well, or if you've ever experienced this and then help people through it. But the girl, the woman that was being interviewed was a social worker, or she had some kind of degree somewhere. But she said people have to understand that grief is an inward, mourning is an outward. And so, share your thoughts on that as we wrap it up, because I believe that a lot of people, including myself, I thought they were both the same. So what's your input to that?
Well, okay. I'm just going to say from my own experience, what you did tell me to share, I think they're similar. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Mourning, I believe prior to my divorce, I was already mourning what I knew that eventually would happen down the line. I was already going through that. Not the death, the grief. I think it comes in when the actual death happens. But I think I was mourning because I knew that at that point I couldn't save my marriage. I was mourning that. I've had that defeated attitude to the point where I had lost already. And then once that happened, the actual divorce happened, then I went through the grief process that it was gone. It was totally gone. I had nothing tangible anymore but my children. because I have 3 children and I have 6 grandchildren. So at that point, I didn't have all those grandchildren because it's been a couple of years back. But that's what I have now. But I actually felt like internally something cut away from me. That's severing away.
Right.
And I happened to call my ex-husband and I said, when is our court date? And I was in the hospital prior to me calling him. So I was kind of disconnected. And so I asked him, when we're going to have the court date for the divorce. And he said, you don't know? And I said, no, what? And he said, we're already divorced. And I said, wow, when did this happen? And he said, when I was in the hospital, when I was admitted in the hospital, they had someone who couldn't make that court date. And he took the court date and went and did what needed to be done. And everything was done like maybe 2 weeks before I even called. But I felt that pull, that severing away, and I knew something was cut. and it felt internal that something was cut. And so, and it was really, I'm just having a moment right now because when I was in the hospital, something was cut. I went through a situation where I had to have, what you would call it, hernia. And my intestines like twisted up and came out like that, and they had to cut like a yard out.
Wow.
So I did have a cut internal and had to heal from the inside out of that, because sometimes when we go through surgery, you think you're healed on that. You have that top wound that might be, but that internal wound is not healed yet.
Right.
Totally. So, I think that process could go hand in hand. And, the mourning process, yes, through death, you do go through. It could take years for you to get through that mourning process.
Right.
Especially if you don't have anything to replace, if that void is there, say if it is your spouse and you don't have that connectivity, you don't have that relationship, things you used to do with that person, you no longer do. So you have a big void. That love is a big void in your life. And so therefore you could actually mourn the person, the relationship, your life, because it doesn't feel fulfilled anymore.
Wow.
So it could be a mourning in that as well.
Absolutely. Wow. This has been awesome. I wish we could go longer. There is so many nuggets in here. And when I listen back to it, I would definitely love for you to come back and we can pick some more specific topics, because I really believe that people need to hear, a lot of the internal, because like you said, what happens on the physical happens in the spiritual as well. So in those moments of transition, in those moments of how do I get to the next place?
Right.
How do I deal with me? I've always had someone else take care of me, or I've always taken care of somebody. And so those transitional moments, I would love for you to come back. We dig deeper into those areas. And so, if you have any final thoughts, let us know what those are. And then let us know also where we can find you, your website, your social media platforms, and all of those links will be down below in the show notes when we do put it on Apple Podcast.
Well, let me just say this last thing. When you last point, you say transition, and I feel that we should take it to transformation. Because through the transition, you want to transform to something greater than what you were before.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that's one point, because it's transformational. We're going through that process. We're going through those stages, whatever it might be.
Right.
And then the second thing I want to say, especially to the audience, is that, hey, I think our biggest stumbling block in our lives at times can be fear.
Wow.
And I think, and I know, not only think, I know, because fear had gripped me.
Wow.
When you're fearful of doing whatever you're called to do or have to do in order to survive, sometimes in situations, fear, when it's not familiar to you of what you need to do, you have doubt, and you might feel like, I don't know how to do this. I don't have the knowledge to do this.
Right.
I don't even know how to take care of myself. And
right.
Go through those different thought processes. But there's always a God who is there to take care of us. And he will always send someone to you to help you if you want to be helped. And that's a process in itself to receive help. So, fear, we gotta knock out fear. And if we knock out fear, we can do anything.
Amen.
Because with God, everything is possible.
Amen.
Everything is possible.
Amen.
And so where you can reach me, I'm on Facebook. You can reach me on Facebook. I'm Faith Davis. And I look just like this. No filter, I look just like this.
Yes.
You can also reach me. My website is being redone, but hopefully it should be done pretty soon. You can reach me at IamFaithDavis.com. And you can also send me an email at info@IamFaithDavis.com. And you can also send me an email at coachfaithdavis@gmail.com. Or come see us both out on Clubhouse.
Yes, at Faith Davis.
Yeah, it's just Faith Davis.
Everything's tied to Faith Davis.
Oh, wait, and one other place is IG. I'm trying to get used to Instagram. I'm a Facebook mama, and IG is, it's kind of challenging right now, but I am out there, and that's at I Am Faith Davis and at IG, Instagram.
Faith, thank you so much for coming on the Coach's Corner podcast.
Paul. I appreciate the opportunity. I really do. And I'm looking forward to coming back.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to throw this out there. This was your first podcast and you did awesome.
Thank you. I think maybe it's the radio show.
Right.
I might have to follow in your footsteps and do this podcast thing.
Yes. Let's get it done. Okay. So, hey, listen, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Do me a huge favor down below here on Apple Podcasts and drop me a review if this podcast has brought you any value. I encourage you to follow Faith Davis on her website. And like I said, all of those notes are here down below. And so, Faith, once again, thank you. And will you do me a huge favor? And can you pray us out?
Oh, I would be more than happy to do that.
Absolutely.
Father, we thank you right now. We thank you for this day that you have made. And we thank you that we are new creations, as it states in 2 Corinthians 5:17. And we thank you, God, for Paul and his ministry. We thank you for the Coach's Corner podcast. And we thank you for all the other ministries that he has put his hands to, his ministry, his church, his family, Father. And we thank you for all the viewers that are coming on and hearing this live and those who will hear it later. And we thank you, God, for all of the resources that you're going to bring to everyone who's listening, and that they will hit the reset button when they need to hit it to be transformed in the purpose, going towards destiny where God would have you to be. Amen.
Amen, amen, amen. All right. Well, we will catch you on the next episode of Coach's Corner Podcast. Remember, you can reach out to me at setfreelife.net. I've got all my free downloads. I got all my resources. You could check out all the rest of our podcasts there. And so until next time, we'll see you on the next episode. God bless.
God bless you.
I want to thank you once again, my friend, for joining me here on Coach's Corner. If you have found value in any of my content, do me a huge favor. Drop me a review down below so that I know how I am doing. Also, you can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/Coach Paul Ibarra. I also do a morning devotional live every weekday morning on Facebook at facebook.com/Wake Up in the Word. I hope to see you there, my friend. God bless, and I'll catch you on the next episode.